All right, I'm gonna get this going and step away for a couple minutes. Oh, hey. Okay, we're live. Live. I'm going to go on mute and off video and try to eat a quick snack. And I'll just leave this open.
I guess I should turn on the light, huh?
Yeah, just put a light in front of me because I remember the last time I was too dark. Okay.
Hi, eat a snack.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. We have some exciting information to start the meeting off with. I'm going to pass it first to Bill Paget. Bill served as the chair for the Master Planning Advisory Committee, which was the previous edition of this committee. And both Bill and Ashton are going to say a few things before we introduce our new committee leadership. So Bill, are you with us?
I am. You want me to go first, or Ashton, would you like to go first? No. Okay. I'd just like to welcome everyone, but served in the past on this committee, but also the 24 or so new folks that have joined. It's going to be quite an experience. I will say you'll be around a lot of incredible people that know a lot of incredible things. So part of this journey is sort of a self-enlightenment, at least it has been for me. And as you get to work with all these various folks from various disciplines with various interests, there'll be a lot to learn, and that will sort of help round out a little bit as we think about Dix Park and how it becomes a world-class park over time. In particular, I'd like to congratulate Shauna and Jay, and I believe Eric, you're also helping with the administration. Good. And I think you're in good hands. I think you have good leadership. And I think it's going to be, like I say, an exciting journey. It's a lot of things to learn. It's not just Dix Park. Remember, it's all those communities that surround Dix Park and the impact on those. There's NC State to the south, and there's the city of Raleigh to the north. And there's no other place in the country, and yes, I've done the research, that has even a 20 or 30 acre destination park that can be basically in the heart of a metropolitan area like Raleigh. So this is exceptional. And so enjoy the journey. If you have questions on history, I've only been involved about 15 years. So, but it's an incredible opportunity. So jump in, learn a lot, keep saying what you believe, and work with everyone and bring folks into the community. So thank you and good luck to all of us. Let's go.
Thanks, Bill. Ashton?
Yeah, one day I'm going to stop following Bill Paget. There's just so little left to say after he says all the good and amazing and right things. So thank you, Bill, for that awesome intro and welcome. And yeah, from my standpoint, just really thrilled to see where this group is going to take the direction of the park and the incredible things that we can accomplish. Very grateful to every one of you for giving your time to serve our community this way, and appreciate those of you who raised your hand to step into leadership. So thank you, and really looking forward to it. If I can be a resource to anybody, please let me know.
Thank you, Ashton. And with that, I'd like to officially welcome Sean. Be serving as the chair for this committee, and Shauna will pass it off to the other leadership. But Shauna, welcome, and hoping you can say something to the group.
Yeah, I should have gone before Bill or Ashton. How's that? That seems really unfair. Since I adore them both and admire them and appreciate all of the work that they put in for the master plan. So thank you all for that. I think, you know, the park is such a beacon for what a lot of us are looking for right now. So I just feel really grateful for people, you know, putting some faith in me to work alongside and to help bring this voice, I think, to a heightened level with the Conservancy leadership and with the city staff. So I'm really just grateful for that. But, you know, I think I said when I introduced myself, the park to me really is about access and connectedness and community. And I hope that that is something that resounds with all of you, and we'll share that together. So thank you. And I'm excited that Jay and Eric are going to be my wingmen. Can I say that? We're wing peoples. Okay, that sounds good, right? Okay, you know, you never know what's offensive, so there's all of that. So thank you for that. I see Nick smiling, maybe, or cringing. I don't know.
That's perfect. Thank you. And Jay, you with us? I think I saw you.
Is that me? Sorry, you were breaking up, Nick.
Anything to the committee?
Nothing that's not already been said. Again, it seems like you just keep building off amazing people, and I just want to say thank you all for the opportunity to help be your voice. I think what we really want to ensure is that as leadership, we're a conduit for the voice of the community. And so if there are anything at any time you feel isn't reflective of the community you believe exists in our city, please let us know, because that's what we need to be reflecting. And really committed to ensuring that the voices are really clearly expressed and with a focus on health equity, and that learning that we had from the Racial Equity Institute and groundwater isn't just a training for us, but a through line in all of our work. And I'll turn it over to Eric.
Thanks, Jay.
Hey guys, just grateful for the opportunity to be part of the leadership group. I'm excited to represent people who are just starting this process and just joining this committee. And if you guys ever have any questions or concerns, just feel free to reach out. Thank you.
And on that note, we will share in my follow-up email the contact information for the leadership in case you want to get in contact with them directly. But I want to speak for Trey, if it's okay, and myself. We've had a couple meetings with these folks already, and they've been really productive. They brought a lot of amazing ideas right off the bat, so we're excited to get rolling. And on that, this is our third onboarding meeting. It's been a little extended because of the circumstances, but we are hoping to wrap that up today and move into official committee business moving forward. The leadership group will be meeting here shortly to talk about committee direction and schedule for 2021. So more information to come there, but very excited to have them on board and get that rolling. I do have a short presentation, but first I'm going to pass it back to Shauna to ask for approval of last meeting's minutes.
Yes, and I think one of the things we forgot to mention is Eric is actually going to be serving as our secretary. So he's going to be taking copious notes for all of us. So thank you in advance to Eric for that, for being willing to serve in that really fun role. So with that, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting on September 21st, 2020. See if there's any comments, any edits, any suggestions or questions.
So moved.
Oh, okay. Who moved? Was that?
Bill Ross.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
I'll second.
That was Jay.
Yep.
All right. All in favor, if y'all want to raise your hands. You get that, Eric?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any opposed? Perfect. I like this kind of business. Short and sweet.
Great.
Back to you, Nick.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to share my screen. We are going to continue our onboarding as mentioned. We're going to introduce a couple staff members to the group. And then we'll also do some committee member introductions. If you haven't introduced yourself, we're hoping to get a couple more in today. So you should be sharing my screen. Can I get a thumbs up that everybody can see the presentation PowerPoint? Awesome. Thank you. Oh, here we go. So as I get this up and rolling, I can't see it yet, but I'm going to ask Joey to go ahead and start with his introduction. I'm going to try to reopen this page.
Hey guys, good evening. My name is Joey Vasca. I am on the Dix Park team for the City of Raleigh. I oversee the programs and coordinate operations daily at the park. And on behalf of our team, it's just so excited to see all you guys and thank you for how you're serving on the community committee for Dix Park. It's great to have your voices and advise us as we move forward. So, Nick, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, go ahead.
So just a couple quick updates from my side. One of the big things that we're working on from a program and event standpoint that you may have heard of is the Nights of Lights event that we're going to be doing at the park this December. That is in partnership with WREL, where we're going to be lighting up a 1.3 mile course or route through the park with holiday lights and holiday displays. And there's a map of what that setup looks like. The city was so excited that WREL reached out to us a few months ago with this opportunity to partner together for this event. As we all know, through 2020 and everything COVID related, doing any sort of gathering or events have been non-existent. But this safe way that we can do a COVID safe event with folks remaining in their car and driving through the park allows us to bring community back together, bring people back to the park. One of the things we just recently did was we had a Halloween drive-in movie on the big field where we tested out this whole drive-in aspect. And it went really well. It was great to see a lot of those familiar faces that we see at the park all the time and, just welcome people back. And we're really excited, like I said, through partnership with WREL to be doing this event. You can see on the map, there's going to be lots of holiday fun themes, from gingerbread, happy holidays, to winter fun scenes, to reindeer scenes, all of those fun things. And then we're really excited about the incorporation of First Night Raleigh in the event on the 30th and the 31st, where the acorn that we're all used to seeing downtown Raleigh will actually be in Dix Park at the end of the course on those two nights. So like I said, a lot more information to come. Tickets go on sale for that event to the public on Saturday at 11 a.m. And I'm also excited to announce to the community committee that we have been able to designate a ticket for all of you to be able to attend the event. So I'll be coordinating with Nick to get information out to you guys to let us know when you would like to attend, so we can make sure we get all that coordinated and get tickets to you all so you can come and enjoy the holiday festivities going on at the park. So besides Nights of Lights, there's lots of other pieces going on a program and operations standpoint, including coordination of how we're going to operate and do programs at the chapel, to other projects that we're doing in the park around early park improvements, adding amenities and those pieces. And I look forward to the opportunity to continue to share information with you all and get your feedback as we're engaging and we're exploring those opportunities moving forward. But like I said in the beginning, I'm just happy to see everybody. Thanks for serving on this group and look forward to working with you guys around my role on the team moving forward. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Joey. And yes, we will be sharing information about this sneak preview for the community committee a couple nights before it officially kicks off. So be looking forward to that. I'm going to pass it next off to Amy. Amy with the Conservancy is going to introduce her role and her team.
Good evening. Thank you so much for giving us a chance, a little slice of your agenda tonight. My name is Amy Etheridge. I'm Director of Development for the Dix Park Conservancy. And with me tonight is also Carrie Stanton and Chandler Witherington. And I'll pass the mic to Carrie and Chandler in just a second. The goal of the Development Department is to inspire and to educate and to connect. Connect what interests people to Dix Park. And so through that effort, we cultivate philanthropy through gifts of time, talent, and treasure. And so that's why we exist, really to help consistently sustain Dix Park and this amazing Dix Park planning team, to support them and to see this bold transformation take place. So that's kind of broadly why we exist and why we're here. Carrie, why don't you take the mic and give people an idea about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Carrie Stanton. I'm the development coordinator for the Dix Park Conservancy. Started in August 2018, so a little over 2 years. I mainly focus on community giving and then grant. And I collaborate with the city on those grants sometimes, and then also support development with our other, asks and events. And then Amy kind of also wanted us to, I feel like for a lot of us, Dix Park is kind of our life, but we do other things in the community too. So Amy asked us to share something else that we do in the community. So I volunteer at Saving Grace, which is a dog rescue up in Wake Forest.
Excellent. Thanks, Carrie. And after I asked Carrie and Chandler to share their volunteer, I forgot to tell mine. So I'm a volunteer with the Wake County Cooperative Extension Master Gardener Program. So work a lot throughout the year, volunteering in a variety of ways to pass along NC State University research-based gardening ideas and information. So Carrie, nope, you've already gone. Chandler.
My name is Chandler Witherington. I'm the donor relations coordinator with the Conservancy. I've been with the Conservancy for about 1.5 years. I started in July 2019. And my main role is to make sure that all of our donors, big and small, feel appreciated and feel connected to this project and feel like they're making a difference. And I also am our volunteer coordinator. So I manage our base of volunteers. We just had a volunteer opportunity last week. Was it last weekend? No. For Diwali, if any of you guys went out to the park, we had a few volunteers. So if you haven't signed up to be a Dix Park volunteer, you can go to dixparkconservancy.org and submit your volunteer information. And something other than Dix Park that I do in the community is that I volunteer at Carolina Tiger Rescue as a animal care volunteer. So Also, if you haven't been out to Carolina Tiger Rescue, it's really cool. You should check it out. It's in Pittsburgh.
Well, thank you all. Amy, y'all good? Awesome. Thank you for your time. And I know this is just a sneak preview of all the things that our teams do. And we will at future meetings get back and give more in-depth updates to projects as we're going forward. And on that note, we had originally hoped that we would give some larger project updates today. We didn't actually have time in the agenda, so we'll be sharing that as part of our follow-up information. We do have some amazing projects underway that we want to share with you, and we will share that. We're deciding on kind of the best format to share that, but hopefully in the next week or so. Now we're going to have a little time to introduce some additional committee members. I know that there are a lot of you and not everyone has been able to introduce themselves yet. So we're going to knock off a couple more today. I think I saw, well, actually Sarah stepped away. I have my list here, so I'm going to stop sharing after I remind folks that we're looking for just your name, whether you're a new or returning member, and something that you're excited about to be involved with on this project. So with that, let's see if I can, Danny, have you introduced yourself yet? Would you mind going ahead?
Yes, I'm Danny Bell. I'm new to the Conservancy, to Dix Park. I'm a Lumbee and Kahari Indian from Eastern North Carolina, and I retired recently from UNC Chapel Hill with American Indian Studies program. And there's a lot of Indian stuff I could tell you about, but I look forward to talking to all of you as time goes on.
Thanks, Danny. Ella, I think I saw you on page 2. You with us, Ella?
Hi. Hi, I'm Ella Briner. I'm a senior at Enloe High School. I'm new to the committee and so I've lived in Raleigh my whole life, and I've been going to the park for a really long time, and I just really like the area, and I love how it can bring the community together in a new way that I haven't really seen before. Cool.
Thanks, Ella. Carly, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carly Jones, and I am a returning committee member. I was on the Master Planning Advisory Committee with a lot of other wonderful folks that are on this call. So really excited to be here. I'm born and raised in Raleigh, love my city, love where it's going, would love to be continue to be a part of the change that's happening pretty rapidly. So I'm wanting to make sure that all folks are included as our communities change and grow throughout time. So I'm just really excited to be a part of that change. I work at the North Carolina Arts Council for the state of North Carolina at the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources as the program director for artists and organizations. And when I'm not doing arts admin work, I'm singing and acting on stage, although not this year because COVID, thank you very much. But I'm just really excited to be here and excited to get to know new faces and hear fresh ideas about the park moving forward.
Thanks, Carly. Sean.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean Fernandez. I'm new to the committee. My interest in the park, I live nearby, maybe not walking distance, but definitely running distance. So I'm running, walking in the park pretty frequently. And I'm also interested, so I'm interested in recreational opportunities in the park. I'm also interested in accessibility. I'm hard of hearing, I'm dependent on hearing aids. So I have experience navigating and trying to help create accessible spaces. So hopefully I'm able to bring that experience to bear here on the park.
Thanks, Sean. Mike Ripley.
Hey guys, I'm new to the committee. My interest is around, I think, put down neighborhood and community, but also I noticed when the final data came out that there wasn't a whole lot of people in accessibility. So I would love to, learn more about that as well. Expertise. I think for me, my expertise is really around like design. I'm a product manager for a cybersecurity company. And so I have a lot of experience with kind of working with a bunch of different groups and kind of explaining to people, hey, this is why we should be doing something, rather than getting too focused on some of the, fine details. But yeah, that's my expertise, and looking forward to working with everybody here. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Sarah Reeves.
Y'all saw me leave for a minute. My husband can't serve dinner to himself, so I had to step away, but I'm back. I'm a returning member, and my interest and my expertise are the same thing. I'm a horticulturist, so I've loved it my whole life, and been gardening since I was a little girl. And my interest in Dix is, my husband and I don't have children, but really to have a place for all ages, especially children, and that children that don't have opportunities now in Raleigh or have not enough opportunities could have more. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. John.
Good evening, everyone. My name's John Parker. I've lived in Raleigh since about 2001. Father of 3 teenagers who love the park, father of 2 dogs that love the park, and interested in all aspects of the work that we're engaged in, from the nature to the wellness to neighborhood and community efforts. My professional background is community development work. Done in rural and urban communities around the state and elsewhere. And I guess I've known about the park since I was little. My father's mother was a patient in the mental health hospital twice. And so I grew up about an hour south of Raleigh, and actually came up to Raleigh quite a bit as a child, and was always familiar with the property, and was really just been really interested in the engagement of how the surrounding neighborhoods and the people of Raleigh are going to be connected to the park over time. So thanks for looking forward to working with all of y'all, and thanks for everybody's involvement.
Thank you, John. And we didn't get to everyone. We have a couple of members left, so I do have you on a list. I promise not to leave you out unless you're not interested in sharing. I would like to do one more thing before I give our kind of closing thoughts. One of the things we'll get into in this next year is finding out specific ways you want to be engaged in this work. And one of the early ways we did this was ask a couple community committee members to be involved in the artist selection process for the chapel project. So I'm going to ask Charles. Charles represented the committee in this work, to give a quick update on that.
Good thing. Thanks, Nick, and hey, everybody. So we had a great panel that has gone through this process so far. From the community committee, it was Shauna and myself. We also had Kelly McChesney. Some of y'all might know Kelly. She's the public art director for the city of Raleigh. And then we had several staff members: Millen, Kate, Nick, Sean, and Sanelsa. And so we got a great response. 30 people expressed some interest, responded to an RFP for this art in the chapel in that entryway. And we narrowed it down. We all went through and ranked them. And actually, Nick came up with a fantastic program using standard deviations and all kind of math stuff. So awesome, Nick, thank you. And we came down to 5 finalists. All those artists were offered a stipend to present a more detailed proposal. And I would say at this point, there's a rich conversation that I think was really valuable about trying to find a balance between, this is a lobby that is, people will enter into an all faiths chapel that really is an event space as well as a sacred space. But yet it's really important that, the artists that kind of rose to the top are those that really understood the history of the property, that talked about how to to embrace the history of the property, as complicated as it is, in an honest way, in a way that was inclusive. And so those were the ones that rose to the top. And I just got a chat that I can say that the artist that we reached out to said yes. His name is Christopher Holt. And he's based in Asheville. He actually has work on exhibit right now at the North Carolina Museum of Art. If you're interested in going and seeing his work in person, it's actually a very community-based art project called the Haywood Street Beatitudes. And so you can check that out if you want to see his work in person. We were all really excited about Christopher's work. We had a follow-up meeting with him to ask some questions and for him to ask some questions of us. One thing I forgot to mention is that there was a lot of diversity of forms of art. We had a lot of 2D art, but we had some installation pieces. We had some glass and some pottery. And Christopher did an interesting job talking about how to use music as well as art in this space to really kind of create a welcoming and interesting environment. So I'm sure you'll hear more about the project as it develops. I don't know if any of the staff or Sean, if you have anything to add, or if anybody wants to know more, but I'm sure you're going to be hearing more from the staff as we move forward.
Thank you, Charles. And a really important piece of this is we got special permission to announce the artist tonight. This is officially embargoed. The Conservancy is going to do a social media push about this. So I want to leave that information for them to share, us to share, if that's okay with everybody, but we wanted to make sure to give you advance notice. The last thing I want to do before I pass it off to Grayson and MBVA is a couple follow-up action items happening in the next couple weeks. We have an EDGE study presentation, which is an open discussion with the planning team a week from today, Monday evening. The second round of focus groups from the Plaza and Play project will happen December 14th and 15th. We'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. Also, some site walks are occurring if you want to walk with Grayson through the project site and hear some more detailed information about the plan and vision there. The Nights of Lights preview nights are also December 14th and 15th, so a little bit of an overlap, but we can work out something if there's any conflicts. And finally, as usual, I'll be sending a meeting debrief email with all of this information in it and more. So with that wraps up kind of our portion of the evening. I'm going to pass it over to Grayson, and she'll introduce our activity for this evening.
All right, thanks, Nick. Well, it's good to see everyone again. We are cruising right along with the Plaza and Play project. It's very exciting. This week we will be getting some, or this evening we'll be getting some design updates from MVVA. So I'm glad that they are here to join us and present this information. A few updates I'll provide with you is we will be having our second public meeting early next year. Nick mentioned that we will have our second round of focus groups next month. So those will be continuing the conversations that we had in October and looking at a little bit more in depth into those topics. And also next month, we will be publishing a engagement report that's summarizing everything we've heard so far. And then finally, I just want to encourage you to go to the interactive website, publicinput.com/plazaplay. Share that with your networks. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to MVVA so they can give y'all an update on where we are.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see the screen? We're good. All right, hi everybody. We're extremely grateful to have this time with you all. Thanks for having us. As Grayson mentioned, we're talking to you now halfway through our schematic design process, which is incredibly exciting. And tonight we really want to do two things. We want to share that progress update with all of you. And most importantly, we want to communicate how what we've heard from you and with you is becoming physically and programmatically expressed in the concepts of the Plaza and Play project. My name's Hillary again, for those who don't know me. I'm on the MVVA team of landscape architects. Matt, Adrian, Fletch, and Max are also here with us tonight. this evening. And also joining us are Missy and Tom from Through and Three Creative, who I'm sure you all know by now. So we're going to spend the next half hour or so sharing these updates, and then we really want to engage with all of you in a discussion and hear how we're hitting the mark or not. I'll go full screen. Okay. So we just concluded a major round of public engagement efforts, and we started that with our first public meeting at the beginning of October. And the meeting was, we think, a success. It was moderated by the fascinating Mickey Fern, and it was led by our consultant team, 313 Creative, who have this incredible way of facilitating events with as much gentleness and fairness as objectivity. And we wanted to take this opportunity to share some of that feedback that we received. It's both interesting, but also important to be aware of as this project moves forward at full speed ahead. And one of the results that we're really happy to see is that people joined our virtual public meeting from all over Raleigh, as opposed to one area, as this image shows. And so there was this healthy distribution of participants, which was excellent to see. We had almost 400 event attendees, almost 700 comments were submitted online at publicinput.com, which is still live and receiving feedback now. And over 1,000 engagement website views, and also views of our videos came up to around 500. So a lot of traffic, which was great. And I should say, we also had a number of feedback activities. One I'll show you that were fun and engaging, that we're continuing to push forward, as well as a lot of pre and post meeting surveys that gave us a lot of ideas, and also came up with a lot of frequently asked questions that we've addressed on the public input site. So to pull out some takeaways for you, we're seeing a really strong desire for a prominent water feature at the plaza, maximizing natural elements in the plaza play, and interest in plants and natural landscapes, as well as a new place to really gather and celebrate life in a diversity of ways. Repeated concerns revolve around ensuring access for all people and modes of arrival, and making it a place that is truly welcoming to all ages, all cultures, all abilities. And one of the things that we are getting a lot of comments on is about a topic that's not in our scope exactly, but it's critical nonetheless, and that is the impact of change on the adjacent neighborhoods. And we understand that this is the prime focus of what Nick just mentioned, the city's Dix Edge study. And that's a project we're coordinating with actively, and we're strongly looking to for guidance on this important topic. Of course. One second. Hold on, bear with me all.
Hillary, I'll pull up a backup too. In a moment.
I knew something was gonna happen, so I saved it on my desktop. Let me just pull that up. Sorry, everyone.
While we're down in Hillary's restarting, I know this is a little we're unprepared, but Tom and Missy, I wonder if you could share a little bit about the work that you've been doing over the past couple of weeks. It's kind of embedded throughout the presentation that Hillary will pull up, and it's going to work. But
server's down. That's what happened. Bear with me, y'all.
Well, I'll try and help you as well. But Tom and Missy, can you jump in while we have some dead air to talk a little bit about what you've pulled together?
Thanks, Adrian. So yeah, as Hillary is pulling up the slides, we can talk a little bit about how some of this feedback has come to MBVA. So as you all know, we had the large virtual public meeting where we had more than 350 people join us. From that meeting and from the comments that we received before that meeting, we have more than 1,000 comments overall. So we've read through all of those comments in a very detailed way. We've categorized them and highlighted comments that are particularly of note or of concern. And we've shared that feedback with MVVA and with the city of Raleigh so that we're making sure to address all of the community's both aspirations as well as their kind of fears for the project. And Hillary is going to walk us through the way that some of these elements are taking shape in the design. That's very much in progress in terms of the way that it's folding into the design. So what I want to hear tonight from you, as Hillary already said, is just, does that make sense? Are we reading your comments correctly? Did we miss something? Is there something that now that we're seeing this that you'd like to add to that? And as Grayson mentioned, that process of collecting that information from you all is going to be made public as well in a report that's coming out in the next month. Good to go?
Sort of. You guys are amazing. Thank you for bearing with me here. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so we worked really hard to make our virtual public meeting interactive, and we had a lot of polls that people were engaging with. And, we had equal parts listening sessions for those, and then we would present in short segments. And they were really fun. Not everybody participated, but we intentionally left the prompts open-ended, and here are the results that we wanted to share with you all. So the main way that people are going to be traveling to the Plaza and Play, at least based on our attendees, is through driving, with biking as a close second. And the most important, above all, type of play is nature play, natural objects, repurposed materials from Dix Park, things that really connect people around nature in a playful way. The landscape elements that are most important are iconic elements like the fountain that we're hearing so much about. And some of the top 3 elements that people are most excited about include gardens, innovative play for all ages, something really unique and different, and this new entrance to Dix Park with the civic fountain and the plaza. And the most important thing that everyone seemed to prioritize was a balance of plaza and play, not one dominating the other. So as I mentioned, we had activities online, and we're going to continue to renew these for folks in the next wave of public engagement. This was an activity called Post-it, where we invited people to kind of imagine a space that was prompted by these series of photographs from some of our past projects. And it really was open-ended and solicited comments like, I'm 54 years old, but I still like to walk on walls and curbs. It's a casual, playful moment. So things like that kind of, I don't know, go to the heart of what we think about when we're imagining what the Plaza and Play site could be. We also talked to all of you in our first round of focus groups, first of 2. And this is where we really got confirmation from a lot of the master plan principles and concepts that we were touching on in the first public meeting. And it helped reinforce our focus on the project priorities as we started to dive deeper into the design process. And so some of them I'll just call out: an oasis in the middle of the city. And these are from notes that were taken during the focus groups. Defined spaces, again, natural playscapes, playground equipment for adults and all ages and multi-generational gatherings. Again, a fountain, especially connectivity and feelings of welcome. And equally as important to us are understanding the concerns, and some that really stood out to us included things like losing some of its natural untouched areas, so ways that we could prevent that or do the opposite, celebrate those. enhance natural features, how to incorporate the legacy of the land and to express or translate or reflect on the social and historical context, and that we won't take risks. So these are all things that we keep in mind as we move into the design. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt to give us a tour of the design progress and how what we've been hearing from all of you has started to land into the plans.
Okay, thank you very much, Hillary.
Okay.
So these framework elements that the focus groups were structured around remain a structuring element for the way we're looking at different subjects. And we've made this diagram that the different colors are supposed to kind of harken back to those different categories, which you can also see listed on the bottom. So some areas are going to be places that we can start to address some of the things that people were interested in. Like, so for instance, obviously this idea of a grilling grove and the idea of local food and cooking and getting together and those kinds of things. That's, you know, starting to look like a good place to kind of get that in there. And we've looked throughout and found that, you know, there's numerous places. The Fountain Plaza probably has a lot of work to do in terms of addressing various interests and you know, people, things, subject matter that people would love to see addressed there. And I would just say, you know, I'm going to go and show you something that is actually a plan. You could start to see a little bit it drawn on this already. And I want you to what I want you to take away, what I think is important for you to take away is the big ideas, the big programmatic ideas. That means use ideas, the kind of location of things. I don't think you should focus on really any detail. Our design firm is an extremely iterative company. We put things on paper to get it thought process going, but nothing really will look the same at the end as it does in the beginning. We certainly want to hear feedback on it, but I wouldn't get hung up on it either. So one of the things we're of course looking at that has been brought up as a public concern is modes of transportation and different access points and how those would be resolved. And this diagram is just talking about, you know, where vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycles might be coming in, and these general areas along the site are where that might be suggested. I think I'll just quickly orient people just in case for some reason you weren't at the first meeting or second meeting or third meeting and not know where the site is. This is Lake Wheeler Road right here, and north is up on this plan. So next please. So this is a kind of overall plan labeling some of the major elements, and we're going to go through each of these, so don't worry about trying to grab it all in your mind right away, but we're going to kind of look at this. We're looking at an entry road here, generally a parking area here, kind of anchoring Fountain Plaza element here, the Buffalo House and Garden here, an event lawn here, big destination play area here, grilling grove in this area, and then something we're calling a swing terrace over here. All of that will be explained further. So whenever we like to think about literally walking into the space when we're thinking about a design, because that's what people will do. They'll walk in for the first time and then they'll walk in for the rest of their lives, hopefully. So that will be, it's always an important way of thinking about it. And we talked about the metaphor of the front door and all of that. So one of the things we're looking at is this idea of a bus stop here, and also pedestrians coming down what will be eventually sidewalks along Lake Wheeler Road and entering at this point here. So we're going to kind of zoom in on that to start with. That's an entry sequence. And what we've done is we've kind of taken these condensed versions of comments and we've highlighted ones that we think could be started to be addressed in each area. It doesn't necessarily mean that people said, I want you to address pollinators along Lake Wheeler Road necessarily, But the idea of finding places to address things, and it wouldn't only mean we would do it in one place either, but we're trying to kind of get concrete about how to talk about things. So this whole idea of, I'll just look at a few of these quickly, connecting with the land.
Oh, sorry.
Why is that
Sorry,
doing
Matt.
that? That's all right.
That's me.
Oh, that's right. Show the environmental ecological benefits of plants. There was some real plant enthusiasts in our groups. Talking about attracting pollinators and birds, the diversity of North Carolina in terms of plants and flowers and shrubs and everything like that, and making everything comfortable and attractive, and really thinking about the seasons. So those are some comments. One of the things is the power line easement, which we're planning around, may require an open landscape at the front of the site. And one of the things that in our research on the site, on the state, in terms of what grows there and does well, open landscapes are rarer once, agricultural land gets abandoned, for instance, the older outer spaces of the hospital, for instance, and maintaining open space with wild meadows and wildflowers and kind of colorful displays like these that are kind of suggested here. These are actually all images from landscapes we've designed that incorporate this kind of landscape. This is possible, a good, possible, and a very inviting, colorful thing to have along in that entry sequence there. That's good. How did you get that picture to look better? That's better.
I got the file.
Yay. Okay,
Yes.
good. Then, so we looked at coming directly perpendicular in off of Lake Wheeler. Also, obviously, people are going to come in from parking and come in from even other parking spaces, especially on the weekend, elsewhere on the site. And they might come in and from in this direction, as indicated by the big arrow here. Next, please. And one of the jobs of the person taking, the people taking on this challenge, is that we get conflicting wishes, and we have to make everybody as happy as we can. And so there's basically parking should not drive the design, and basically concerns about parking kind of comments, and then equally, if not stronger comments. Don't forget about how important parking is, or I won't be able to come and visit this place. And, so we have to figure out a way of balancing that and really allowing the site to help us figure out how the parking will work. One of the things that, paved areas could be also used for is for festivals, like, for instance, food trucks or something like that. Those are ideas that we're throwing around. And also, the parking might be a great place to integrate wildflowers, native landscape, rain gardens, and things like that. So just a kind of series of images to kind of start to talk about that. For instance, in the lower left is actually a passive rain garden that features wildflowers. Thinking about kid drop-off and buses and how that would be done safely. And then another subject was farmers market outposts. Could we start to think about incorporating that in some of the areas, including in the parking lot? Next, into the kind of core or heart of the scheme is our idea of a fountain plaza. The notion here is this kind of civic space, a gathering space, a place where performance can happen, a place that has water in it for cooling off, something that's very theatrical and fun. Could have places for people to sit and watch, for people to participate, for, like I said, for performances to be brought in as well. Now, I don't mean literally that we're going to make Bethesda Terrace, but an inspiration for this idea and a kind of arrangement of elements was inspired by this terrace in Central Park. If anyone's been to Central Park in New York City, there's a kind of glorious civic moment there where there's a raised terrace. You could see it in the back and big stairs coming down to it that overlooked this kind of civic space. And so this kind of sectional relationship or elevational relationship with nice ways to kind of come through the landscape and connect the two different levels together in a gracious, beautiful way. And then also have passive places for sitting and overlooking, and then some kind of watery thing in the middle. Those are all ideas that we kind of took away from Bethesda Terrace and Fountain. Some of the things that we heard about that we think we could start to address here: can we get lots of tables and places like that to sit? Water features that intrigue people year round. Is it possible to incorporate nature throughout? We have to determine a heart. Our idea is that this space could really act as the heart, and we would aim that it would, because it would not be only for one group or another, but really try to make it as widely as appealing as possible. The importance of accessibility and graciousness, gracious welcome, very important thing that was, you know, always a concern of ours, but also brought up in very strong ways. Performance space, can we make any connotation towards history, and invite people to have their own experiences and kind of make up the way they're going to use the space themselves. Some images that we had here in the Fountain Plaza, just thinking about it, you know, a larger paved space could have every kind of thing from like yoga and dance parties and performances. It could have celebrations. It would be really neat to have something that was interesting all year long. And then of course it could have a playful water element that could be both a civic element and a way to cool off and kind of mitigate the heat of the Raleigh summers for everybody, people of all ages, not just kids. We love to look at all kinds of inspiration when we bring them up and we show people, again, just like Bethesda Terrace, it doesn't mean we're going to make a literal copy of that. But one of the things that people talked about are when we asked for inspiring landscapes, people mentioned some of these spots that we're showing here. And there's something about the power of water in a natural setting or a setting that's inspired by nature that we would like to experiment with and think about as we think about this kind of theatrical setting. There's a kind of theatricality, a natural theatricality to some of these spaces as well, the way they almost act as a kind of backdrop for scenery. And so we're thinking about all of that as we start to develop the Plaza play in the Plaza Fountain. We're also inspired by the really interesting types of natural stone material, and people brought a lot of these to our attention as well. And we've been kind of collecting names and addresses of quarries. We will go out and visit and really get a feel for a lot of these natural materials that we could possibly be using in the design of the plaza. And then it could be incorporated in ways that like, for instance, that fountain, that overlooked staircase in our Brooklyn Bridge Park. This is sort of a big stair that acts as a kind of a public gathering place to watch performances and also just look at the view and watch the crowd pass by. Then a big idea that we're very excited to tell you about is, you know, we thought very hard about how do we keep this first phase from becoming an island or a kind of self-referential island on the edge, if you will, of Dix Park. And you know, one of the things that is really amazing is the Grove landscape, which is very meaningful for a lot of different reasons. First of all, it is actually a historically intact designed landscape, and pretty much functions as it was intended, as a kind of welcome pastoral landscape to bring you up into what was the hospital grounds at the time, but also introduces you into the site. It's also really the place that the community became involved with in terms of reclaiming the hospital grounds as a new type of public landscape, when they got involved with replanting trees 15 or so years ago there. So the idea we wanted to try to find an answer to was, can we strongly connect the Plaza Play element with this other really basically existing park, this beautiful landscape, this design landscape, and make a strong connection all the way through the kind of core of this scheme. So just to remind you, this is what that landscape is right just next to us. And so we're looking at removing a couple of small roads that are redundant in the kind of current functioning of the site and relocating some parking that's used by the state to other places. And we're working on that with our consultants. But to really bring this beautiful green landscape, kind of almost kind of quadruple, or I don't know, maybe 10 times, make the site much, much bigger in phase one in a way, if you will, by connecting these two together and bringing this green space up into the site. So those are these kind of approaching it from both directions. Then there's other important elements that become destinations. They might draw particular audiences and they will help support the whole life of the plaza. One is the Buffalo House and Garden, which we're delving deeply into. What some of the things that we heard is this a great place for temporary art installation or programming? Can we make some kind of garden here that could bring people together around plants in the type of gardening that might, be more about, a residential scale feel to it, for instance. There was quite a lot of interest in, I actually don't see it here, but I know there was an interest in edible landscapes, and this could be a place for that kind of thing to happen. I guess that's the place for gardens. Cafe tables and chairs, again, that could happen here. Connection, reflection, thoughtful engagement. There's nothing like a truly historic element to kind of become the basis for something like that. And Adrian will talk a little bit more about that at the end if I don't natter on too long. Importance of accessibility. And if you had a garden, could you have ways to make it very accessible for people? And could a deep history that resonates with so many diverse groups be kind of, could we make a connection to that here as well? So ideas for inside the house, could we have food and drink, things that support gardening, or activities that people can participate in, learn about, for instance? Could it become a learning place? Could we have exhibits, permanent or changing, and art classes? Can we have a permanent or rotating art installation in the house? So all of these are ideas. Outside gardening, special seasonal interest, pergolas for shade, arbors, other kinds of interesting elements like that, outdoor eating area. Another destination on the plan is another focus is the destination play idea that we've been talking about since the master plan. Can we really engage the imagination, look for spaces for parents and caregivers as well, different levels of skill and to meet every kind of challenge for every kind of person. Have something about discovering and learning about history there. Is that possible? Unique, can we talk about the unique geology and natural features of Raleigh or North Carolina? And can this be a great space that really is invitational to all the kids from all across the whole city? And just some imagery that starts to talk about that, play for all ages, accessible to all, natural elements, lots of different levels of challenge, for instance. Next focus area was this idea of this grilling grove, this place for people to come together and prepare food together and be with each other in planned and unplanned ways. Bring their own, can people bring their own, bringing their own food is a way for something to really be affordable. You don't want to have to always go buy something, but bringing your own stuff. Bring people to, that also again incorporate plants and beautiful natural imagery. could that farmer's market be again engaged with that? Can we have as many tables as possible, just so that you don't go there and there's no tables open to be able to use? How about the sun? Let's not roast, that kind of thing, and also a flexibility to the space. Those are some of the issues we were looking at there. The idea of grills, actually, risk managers don't want grills, but everyone else does, so we're going to have to win on that one, being in the everyone else category. Can we incorporate some small sporting activities, cornhole or bocce or ping pong or tetherball, things like that, little things that might be fun to kind of enliven the picnic-like atmosphere, little play area maybe incorporated, and then lots of tables and chairs and umbrellas and protection from the sun as well. And then finally, we have this idea of a swing terrace where we've kind of extended this is one of the ways of kind of drawing the grove into the site, and then drawing the kind of activity of the site out, so the grove in and the activity out. We have this idea of wrapping a kind of overlook, a terrace or a series of swings in this location that would overlook, and you'd be swinging towards the view of downtown and the grove. It's a great kind of play for all ages kind of activity. Adults like to use those things as well. We could have elements that people can sit on together. It would tie us into the sledding and that kind of activity that happened there. And then again, we can make connections through notations and other ways about the history. This building was actually the kind of welcome center, if you will, or kind of place that when people came to the hospital, they went through this building. And so it kind of serves, even though it's still going to be working as functioning as part of the state function for now, we ultimately see that as a park visitor center, and so kind of starting to engage that around the outside while staying away from the building itself really tightly. So, could we do these great civic swings there, connect to events on the lawn, movies on the lawn and things like that, and having people roll out blankets, and then, connecting to the sledding that does occasionally occur. I hope it happens again in my lifetime. And then with that, I want to turn this over to Adrian, who has a little bit to talk about here in terms of honoring history.
Thank you, Matt. I'm going to be brief so that we have a chance for more conversation, but this is also a really important element that came out of the focus groups and many other discussions we've been having throughout the engagement process. So we wanted to kind of elevate it and give you all an update into the design team's thinking. So what we have here is a specific location, a suggestion for how the history of the site can be introduced to park visitors, and also maybe even we're thinking of this kind of like as an orientation space for groups of school kids maybe, or other groups of visitors who might be coming to the site who really need to know all about the history of the hospital, of the plantation, and of the Native American folks who were likely here before that. So where we are in the plan is we are pretty much as close to the main pedestrian entry off Lake Wheeler Road as we can be. And so Lake Wheeler Road would be running just like all of our plans had been along the bottom here of the site. Yep. And then so we're between Lake Wheeler Road and the Buffalo House. And there's a lot of details that we'd like to work through with you all and with other folks in Raleigh in particular to get this right. But the proposal right now is that the garden space out here, that again is one of the first places that you would enter if you're coming in by foot, would have a series of markers on it that would also tie into specific names of people whose lives were impacted by the Dorothea Dix site. And that there would be a way, whether it's through QR codes, as we're suggesting here, or brochures, or programming, or a mix of all of those, to connect to additional biographical information, to put some real specifics to how people's lives were impacted by the Dix Park site over the years. We've given 2 examples right here of the kinds of people that we're thinking of. And again, we're kind of responding to ideas that we've heard through public engagement, as well as conversations that I heard as a part of the history and reflection focus group. So these names are just examples, but there's something to build on. So an example of a African-American craftsman who was enslaved and worked on the original hospital, and then after emancipation went on to be a state legislator. That's Stuart Ellison. And another idea is our group has already had some oral history. We've had some interviews with a woman named Mildred Simon, whose family was employed by the hospital in the mid-20th century, and she grew up in the Buffalo House. So if we go to the next slide, please, Hillary. The important idea here would be, as well, is that we're thinking of connecting to lives of people who have really interesting stories, and kind of vivid ways of bringing specifics of emotional and historical experiences to life, but they might not be necessarily grand heroes. They might also be everyday people that in learning about their lives, there's a lot of insight that can be brought to what the meaning of the park is today. The second slide is just an example of some of the kinds of markers that we're looking at with the signage designer that is also a member of our team. These are all, in this case, these are all markers that are at the pavement level. And the idea being, if you're here as a visitor, you already know the site history, there's something here really important for you to discover. But it also might be for people coming to Dix Park for the first time. They might not know anything about the incredibly rich and complex history of the site and of the park. And so this would be a space that orients them to that and starts to prompt some new interest, we hope, and some curiosity. So with that.
Thank you, Matt and Adrian. With that, we would love to hear from all of you, especially for those of you who are able to join our focus groups. What's resonating? What are your concerns? We'd like to hear anything and everything at this moment. We have about 20 minutes, so. Nick, I'll let you, maybe if people raise their hand or just want to jump in, if you want to call on them.
Yeah.
I'll defer to you.
I'll try to facilitate this. There's also, Hillary, some really great questions in the chat. So
there are.
That would be great. I'll start with Jackie. Jackie just asked a question about one of the activities suggested as weddings. Jackie, you want to ask your question?
Sure. Sorry for not being on video. I was just having, I just had a question about the weddings. I forget which area that was suggested, but I wondered if there was going to be multiple areas around the park where wedding rentals could happen. And I have this like kind of hesitation around it in the Plaza and Play, just because it feels like it would be kind of intrusive or intrusive for the sort of public that's like using the park as a play space, and it might be easier to like get supplies in and out and get family in and out in an area that's not the Plaza and Play. But that's just yeah, I'm curious about that. I don't have like super strong feelings one way or another. Just curious about your thoughts on that.
Somebody designating people who are going to answer.
I can jump in on that.
I can jump in first, and then Hillary will pass it off to you. So one good thing is that there will be multiple spaces. So for example, a chapel and chapel gardens and grounds will be coming online in 2021. And we have all these other, like we're already having weddings in a lot of the open spaces that groups are renting just the green space. So I think the management and operations of space between the privatized use and the public use is going to be really critical to the success of the Plaza Play, to make sure that we are always providing this public access to this great new part of the park. And so I think, you know, we have the generosity of 308 acres. And so we don't have to host every single wedding. Although I do think all the park is going to be popular, continue to be popular for community celebrations and family celebrations like weddings. But yeah, I think there will be multiple spaces. I don't know, Hillary or
Yeah.
Matt.
No, Kate, I think that's perfectly put. I think for the Plaza Play specifically, we're not necessarily dialing in places to host weddings, although a lot of the areas are flexible enough and that they could potentially make for an impromptu exchange of vows. One of the really special moments that we witness a lot in some of our projects like Brooklyn Bridge Park are couples who go to the park as a place to have their photos taken. It's a good moment to get away from the wedding party and be together and have a photo op. And we like the idea that these iconic spaces in the plaza that we're creating could be a backdrop for that part of life as well. But agreed that we wouldn't want to be interrupting, the flow that's going on in these spaces given their scales. So it's something we'll keep in mind for sure. Thanks for bringing that up.
We had a couple questions and comments about buildings. Carol had a note that she liked the idea of keeping the buildings and making them into beer gardens, using the outdoor courtyards as dining areas. And a couple of folks like that idea. And I think Myrick also has a couple building related questions that may tie it all together. Yeah.
Go ahead, Myrick.
I'm wondering what your thinking is about the two buildings that are to the west that have been carved out. To you, for example, what you're showing for the Buffalo House would actually work so much better in the bigger spaces of those buildings. Buffalo House is so small that you might get one of those ideas that you've got in there to work. But I mean, you've got so much good potential to do some of the things you're showing in those buildings.
I think that you know, in my zeal to get to the end of the presentation, I kind of blurred that all together there, Myrick. I think we totally agree that we don't want to overburden the Buffalo House and that we need to find the right stuff that really feels like it won't overburden it and really takes advantage of its special nature. And I also agree with you that there are buildings that are out of the scope of this project that would really be very good as support buildings here. And we absolutely will continue to pursue that as an idea.
And Matt's being generous. Matt's being generous here, Myrick, because MVVA has presented some ideas for the buildings surrounding and the city, because we don't have control over those yet. We've kind of asked the team to focus on the Plaza Play area, but no, they're thinking about the periphery in those buildings.
Furiously.
Great, good to hear, because in a sense, drawing them out's an artificial, right this moment thing that's not going to matter 5 years from now.
Of course, yes.
Thank you.
So we're not going to get to every question. There will be follow-up, and we are taking notes. Ella had a quick question about the swing terrace. Do you want to ask that one, Ella?
Yeah, I love the idea of having like a space just for swings. It's so much fun to swing, and everyone of all ages. And especially like make sure that it's accessible to all kinds of people. But I was also wondering if that could be the same, we could share that space with like people who want to bring their own hammocks, because we were talking about that in the past.
Probably, I would say yes. I mean, certainly the hammocks are going to be able to take advantage of a lot of the bigger trees that are in that area. And I'm glad you like the swings.
Go swings. Thanks.
Thanks, Ella. We also had kind of a theme of talking about food vendors and the different opportunities of scale on the site. I know in our kind of design meetings, we've had a robust conversation there, but without asking a specific question, could we spend a little bit more time talking about the different ideas to bring food into the site in connection to the farmer's market or small businesses incorporated in some way?
Who wants to, does the client side want to answer that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't Can you repeat the question? Or Grayson, you want to jump in?
Sure.
I can't imagine Grayson wouldn't want to say something there, for instance.
Well, I think it's interesting, Matt, that you said, do I want to chime in here, because we have been discussing this already in this area of the grilling area and how it's about food and how important food is to bring people together. And it's a big part of our culture locally. You know, I think it's generally a part of people's cultures, but I think it's something that's really valued here in Raleigh. So I think some of the discussion has been what we've had internally, and also what I've been able to pick up from the chat is what are some other ways that food can be brought into the park, or other ways that food can be done in the park other than grilling. So I've seen a few different things, but yeah, I would rather listen and hear what people have to say than reiterate or bring out what's in the chat too much.
Yeah, and just a good point there, Grayson, is this is still at the idea phase, so we are refining. When the design team says grilling areas, they don't mean only grills, right? They need to hear from you all about other options as well, so it's helpful to reinforce that. Mm-hmm. We had a question, I think it was from Bill, about the consistent design between this project and other projects in the future. And I know we've talked about how this project can kind of set some design standards. I thought that NVVA could speak to that.
Matt, you want to take that one?
I think that's absolutely right. It can be a place where we start to test some things that could become standards for the park. They also could be, it's also a pretty small scale intervention. So there might be things that are tried here and rejected, even, just to be as realistic as I can. But no, there are some great opportunities here to look at, for instance, pedestrian scale lighting that we might be wanting to use, accessibility standards that we might want, material standards that we might want, bench standards that we might want. There's garbage cans. There's a lot of different things that we could be trying out here, and that could become standards for the park. That would be the goal, would be to do that. Not to say that every single bench from there on out would have to be the same bench, but there is an advantage to standardization to some things, but also because this is such a big project, it might be a great opportunity for a unique standard, something that's uniquely Dix Park, but also standard to Dix Park. So that possibility and something that we've done in some of our projects.
Jay, did you have a comment on?
Yeah, no, I just want to reiterate, just reading the comment list and just hearing from everybody, this is really remarkable. And I think, you know, as we gather these ideas as a committee, I think it'll be important for us to get a sense of, across this entire 308 acres, what are the things we want to make sure are captured somewhere in this park, so that when we look at each space connected to each other, we can make sure that we didn't miss anything. Because right now this is one corner of the park, and there are 800 ideas that we could put into this space, but are they best suited in this space, or are they best suited across the park in other spaces? So the context of what we as a committee, to Eric and Sean and myself, like for you all, what are the things that matter to you that you want to see reflected in this park, and make sure that you share that with us. And then as we go through the different elements and the different phases, figuring out the appropriate place for each of those things, and us kind of having a good dialogue about all of these ideas. Because I think everything shared is spot on, and it's just a matter of fitting it in the right space.
Thanks, Jay.
It's a really tough balance, Jay. You know, we want this to, in a way, be almost a microcosm of the park for people, to excite them. And that's one reason why we connected to the Grove, because that big expanse of the Grove really, I think, helps enrich the kind of full experience. But of course, we can't have everything here. And as much as this committee could help us explain that to the rest of the city, I'd appreciate it.
I think John had a good question recently. John, would you mind sharing that one?
Yeah, if my dogs start barking, I might go back on mute. I was thinking a little bit along Bill's comments on the design. I'm thinking about the signage when you were showing the pieces that might reflect people's history in the ground, and just thinking about the timing of other markers that we might have around the larger park regarding some of the history and the connectivity of that, particularly for folks who are maybe accessing, the rest of the park on a more regular basis, and seeing some alignment with the design around the historical pieces in this plaza and play section. And then just, of course, hoping, someone mentioned QR codes with oral histories earlier, which I think is really great, but just also thinking about what would be featured on the website for people that wanted to know more information about those individuals or groups of folks that we're trying to lift up, given that we're trying to spotlight a lot of different histories throughout the whole park.
Kate, do you want to talk to
Yeah,
the website?
I'll jump in. Yeah, so, and Lauren, one of the things we didn't give y'all an update on just because of time is our signage project that Lauren on the Dix Park team with the Conservancy, we're going to have signs, yay, probably a first round of signage by the end of the year. So historic interpretive signage as well as directional wayfinding. But we're designing it very simply because we think that the signage that will go into the Plaza Play might set that standard for the rest of the park. And so this first round is going to be really simple, but it's meant to be temporary and replaced as the more permanent signage and design comes into play. So that's something that we've been working on for the past 6 months or so, and will be part of your project update that you get from us after this meeting. But we are designing it as kind of semi-permanent so that it's replaced as the rest of the park develops over time.
Thanks, Kate. Jackie, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if y'all could remind me where the potential farmers market connection will be relative to this section of the park. I couldn't quite remember like where those two things connected.
I'll jump in here too. There are potentially two connections. One is a new multi-use path along Lake Wheeler that is being connected to a new entrance that the farmers market is currently building off of Lake Wheeler Road. And that would be more of the kind of road side. And then we're also thinking about an internal connection to the park, basically going down the, what road is that? Biggs. To the backside of the big field and connecting on the backside of the farmers market. So looking at two potential connections, one of them more a roadway project and the other an internal connection project through the park.
Thank you.
Carly just mentioned something in the chat. Carly, could you share that with the group?
Sure. I just wondered, and this might be getting ahead of ourselves into details, but since we're already creating some signage, what partners we're working with to make sure, that cultural and historical narrative is accurate and represents everyone well. And if we don't have partners, who are we thinking of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one is we're starting with content that was developed by the City of Raleigh Museum as part of the Plantation to Park exhibit. And so they went through a process kind of working with their historians and interpretive team to develop that first round of content. Then we've also been working with Angela Thorpe and others at the North Carolina African Heritage Commission, as well as members of the Dix Park Legacy Committee who have specific ties to different community groups. I'll be really honest, this first round of signage is going to be pretty straightforward, factual based. And then as we develop more of the oral history piece, I think that's where you're going to see kind of the QR code and more interpretive signs, more interpretive type information come out through like individual stories about people. So this first round is going to be pretty factual. Not that it's all not facts, but pretty kind of who, what, when, where, and then the why and how kind of coming through in a second round. But we've got a whole stakeholder list. I'm happy to share that with the group.
All right. Well, thanks, Kate. Nick has told me behind the scenes to go ahead and to close this up. I know we're approaching 7:30, so I want to say thank you to everyone. We'll be following up with more information on the focus groups. I want to say thank you to MVVA. It's a long time coming to like really be getting into the design. So I'm really excited. I love how the design of this is taking the historic grove and this wonderful open space that we have on the front of the park, connecting that into the site. It goes back to the master plan of this balance of more urban activated park spaces with more open pastoral landscape. So I think that's really great that those two big themes of the master plan are coming into the design of this site. I love that we're looking forward to having multimodal transportation in and around the site, and I think we'll continue to talk about that more as we move forward. And I do want to say that from the comments I was able to read, I think one of the most exciting things that I love seeing from everyone is how I think we're mostly adults here. Depends on how you view yourself, but that a lot of the comments are really excited to have play. And so I'm glad to see that we're looking at play as adults, you know, and I think kids will easily find ways to play. So I love to see that. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Shauna so she can wrap us up.
I won't keep us long. Thank you, Grayson. I think what was exciting in this is it was a great affirmation as to why each of us was selected, right? Like I think the quality of comments and the commitment to care was evidenced in the chat today. So just want to thank you all for that. And I don't have anything else. So with that, I hope you all have a great night. Thank you again for everyone being here.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna end the meeting. Good night.